The world woke to a revelation that shattered centuries of royal tradition and sent shockwaves from Buckingham Palace to the farthest corners of the Commonwealth. A secret will, hidden in vaults guarded by silence and steel, had been its contents? Unthinkable. King Charles III, in his final act of defiance against the tides of expectation, had named Prince Harry, not William, as his heir. The proclamation was not announced in grandeur, but leaked in whispers, in fragments of legal parchment photographed by a trembling insider who knew the world would burn once the truth. It was supposed to be William's destiny. For years, he had prepared for the crown, carrying the weight of duty, the burden of expectation, the legacy of his mother and the iron will of his. He was the steady hand, the stoic future king. And yet, in a twist worthy of Shakespeare, the younger brother, the runaway prince, the rebel, the man who turned his back on the monarchy and fled to California, was now set. The streets outside Buckingham were chaos. Protesters clashed with supporters, royalists waved flags in confusion, and the media went into a frenzy that made the Diana years look tame. Headlines screamed betrayal. Anchors spoke with trembling voices of constitutional crisis and the greatest royal upheaval since the abdication of Edward the. But behind the velvet curtains of the palace, the true drama unfolded with a venom the cameras could never capture. William, sources say, was incandescent. For years, he had been warned of his father's unpredictable streak, but this was beyond. Witnesses described the moment he learned of the will, a closed-door meeting in Clarence House, a single sheet of paper handed to him by a pale-faced solicitor, and then silence. A silence so heavy it was said to make the chandeliers tremble. "This is not just a betrayal," he reportedly whispered, "it is an execution of my birth." But why Harry? Why the brother who had burned bridges, tarnished the family name with tell-all interviews, Netflix confessions, and a memoir that left wounds still bleeding in royal corridors? The leaked documents hinted at a chilling answer: loyalty. In his final days, Charles was said to be consumed by the idea of legacy, not the legacy of public approval, but the legacy of truth as he saw it. Harry, in his exile, had maintained a private bond with his father. Secret calls, clandestine meetings in the Highlands, letters exchanged under the guise of reconciliation but carrying the seeds of. Charles, disillusioned by what he perceived as William's increasing alignment with the establishment, the institution as Harry and Meghan had so bitterly named it, saw in his younger son not the rebel, but the one who could, in his mind, save the monarchy by tearing down its walls. The legalities were more. The Act of Settlement, the Regency Acts, the centuries of precedents, all now bent under the weight of the monarch's dying. Lawyers debated into the night whether such a will could override Parliament, whether a private document could usurp the line of succession enshrined in law. But as the palace confirmed the document's authenticity, and as the signature of Charles III glinted in the fading summer light, the machinery of coronation began to lurch forward. Harry, upon hearing the news in his Montecito mansion, was said to be pale, shaken, and silent for hours. Meghan, sources claimed, was the first to break the quiet. "This is the moment everything changes." Her words, part triumph, part warning, echoed the fears of a nation already divided by their polarizing. Would she become queen? Would she stand beside him at the coronation, draped in jewels older than the nation itself, while the British public seethed? The tabloids erupted with speculation. Queen Meghan? Was scrawled across newsstands in bold. In the quarters of power, allies turned to adversaries. Senior courtiers, long aligned with William, plotted to delay, to challenge, to question the mental capacity of the late king in his final. Was this the product of a clear mind, or the desperate act of a man surrounded by whispers and influence? Rumors swirled that Meghan herself had been present in the final weeks, soothing Charles, advocating for Harry, presenting him not as the deserter but as the dutiful son. Wrong. Parliament was a cauldron. The Prime Minister, caught between constitutional duty and political survival, called for an emergency session. Streets outside Westminster filled with chants, "William the rightful heir," clashed with "Harry for the future." Social media burned with hashtags, #KingHarry, #NotMyKing, #Crown. The monarchy, already fragile in the modern era, teetered on the brink. And through it all, Harry remained a ghostly figure, rarely seen, never quoted, moving through the storm like a man bound by forces larger than himself. Insiders said he wept the night the will was confirmed, torn between the family he had fought to escape and the destiny now forced. One close friend confided, "He never wanted this. Not like this. But he can't walk away now, not without looking like the villain of history. William, meanwhile, marshaled his forces. Allies in the press, old friends in Parliament, even whispers of legal challenges through ancient channels rare. His anger was not just at the betrayal, but at the humiliation, of being cast aside not by the people, not by Parliament, but by his own father, in the most intimate act of royal treachery imaginable. He vowed, according to one palace aide, to fight with every drop of Windsor blood. The days that followed were a fever dream of leaked emails, midnight meetings, and a royal family fractured beyond repair. Camilla, now widow queen, was said to be a silent force behind the scenes, advocating calm while privately lamenting the chaos her late husband had unleashed. George, Charlotte, and Louis, the children who had been raised as heirs in waiting, looked on in confusion as their future dissolved like. And then came the ultimatum, a date set for the coronation of King Henry IX. The title itself felt alien, torn from history books and thrust upon a modern stage that no longer believed in fairy tale. Invitations whispered but not delivered. William excluded. Meghan included. The fault lay as the crown was polished and the scepter laid out for rehearsal. Britain asked itself, is this the monarchy reborn, or the monarchy undone? Could a king who had built his identity on escaping the palace ever truly reign within it? Could a nation that had watched his betrayals on television, read his grievances in print, and mocked his missteps online ever kneel? The answer, perhaps, lay not in law or lineage, but in the theater of power that the royal family had always mastered. For in the end, the crown is not just metal and jewels, it is belief, it is theater, it is story. And the story now was one of betrayal, secrecy, and a will that changed the course of his. As the clock ticked toward the day of coronation, London held its breath. Would William make a move? Would Parliament intervene? Would Harry step back at the 11th hour, returning the crown to the brother he once loved like it win? Or would he, in the most dramatic twist of all, walk into Westminster Abbey, place the crown upon his head, and become the most controversial monarch Britain? The answer, like the will itself, was sealed, for now, in silence. But one thing was certain, the age of quiet, dutiful, predictable monarchy had died with Charles. In its place rose a kingdom of whispers, of power plays, of secrets carved in. And at its heart stood a man who had once been the spare, now transformed into the most dangerous thing of all, a king made by scandal,